10 Asian nations forge new alliances, signaling a shift from the US in 2025. A significant geopolitical realignment is underway in Asia, as 10 nations have reportedly severed ties with the United States to form a powerful new alliance. This move marks a considerable challenge to American influence in the region. Here's a look at the countries leading this shift. Number 10, India. Tensions between India and the United States have been subtly escalating. In 2025, India took a decisive turn, no longer content with a subordinate role. The nation began actively resisting U.S. dominance, notably by pursuing international trade deals that bypass the U.S. dollar. This strategic economic shift underscores India's pursuit of independence and its desire to establish its own economic regulations. India has also diversified its trade strategies, looking beyond Western partnerships. After decades of reliance on the West, New Delhi is forging stronger ties with the Middle East and Southeast Asian nations, signaling its refusal to follow U.S. leads. This bold strategy has garnered global attention, as India demonstrates its capability to stand independently. Perhaps the most profound change is India's return to its roots of strategic autonomy, reminiscent of its non-aligned stance during the Cold War. While Washington watches with concern, many in Asia commend India's initiative to build its own regional influence rather than waiting for an invitation to the global table. Number 9, Malaysia. While much of the world's attention was elsewhere, Malaysia made quiet yet impactful moves in 2025. The country surprised many by expressing interest in joining BRICS, signaling a closer alignment with China and Russia and a departure from long-standing Western ties. This move was not merely symbolic, it conveyed Malaysia's re-evaluation of its future allegiances. Malaysia's warm reception of Chinese President Xi Jinping during his visit particularly drew attention. Both nations signed extensive agreements spanning trade, infrastructure, and defense, representing major long-term cooperation commitments under China's Belt and Road Initiative. For Malaysia, this was a calculated embrace of opportunity, while for Washington, it indicated the quiet closure of a once open door. Number 8, Vietnam. Vietnam's shift in 2025, though understated, sent ripples through diplomatic circles. Known for its balanced approach to major powers, Vietnam surprisingly strengthened its alignment with China. This was more than just rhetoric. Vietnam and China began collaborating closely on supply chains, defense initiatives, and cross-border infrastructure, quietly drifting away from the U.S. orbit. This pivot was not without cause. Earlier in the year, the U.S. imposed a new wave of tariffs on key Vietnamese exports, sparking outrage in Hanoi. Faced with economic uncertainty, Vietnam responded by weaving tighter economic threads with other Asian partners, circumventing its reliance on American markets. This was a strategic redirection, not merely a reaction. Number 7, Cambodia. Cambodia made headlines in 2025 by deepening its relationship with China. After the United States froze a substantial portion of its aid, Cambodia promptly turned eastward. In response, Beijing invested billions in Cambodia's infrastructure, defense upgrades, and digital development. For Phnom Penh, this was a deliberate pivot to a partner that does not impose conditions on domestic politics. Beyond financial aid, Cambodia has embraced the Belt and Road Initiative, allowing Chinese-backed projects to transform its ports, roads, and tech sectors. These changes are rapidly integrating Cambodia into China's strategic framework. Consequently, a once U.S.-friendly nation is becoming a key satellite in China's expanding sphere of influence, with Western diplomats observing their fading access. Number 6, Indonesia. Indonesia did not make a grand announcement in 2025, but its actions spoke volumes. In a quiet yet powerful move, it signed an agreement with South Korea to conduct trade using their own currencies, completely bypassing the US dollar. This was more than a financial experiment. It signaled Indonesia's readiness to break old habits and assert greater control over its economic future, gradually detaching from America's financial influence. The country is also increasingly focusing on strengthening regional ties. As a major player in ASEAN, Indonesia is leveraging its influence to advocate for deeper integration among Southeast Asian economies. Instead of relying on Western trade routes, it is investing in a regional system that retains more power within Asia. This is a strategic move to build resilience, not isolation. Number 5. Thailand. Thailand's shift in 2025 was subtle, calculated, and unmistakable, without loud speeches or dramatic exits. Concerns over new U.S. trade policies sparked quiet frustration in Bangkok, particularly as local industries felt overlooked and disadvantaged. Rather than waiting for Washington to respond, Thailand began seeking partnerships elsewhere. The country initiated a rebalancing of its economy towards regional players that offered mutual respect and benefit. Simultaneously, Thailand has intensified its role within ASEAN. Instead of acting unilaterally, it is forming coalitions with neighboring countries to strengthen Southeast Asia's collective voice on the global stage. This united front enhances the region's bargaining power and reduces its dependence on any single partner, especially the U.S. Thailand is not turning its back in anger but is choosing partners aligned with its future trajectory. Number 4. South Korea. South Korea's political landscape underwent a significant upheaval in 2025 following the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol. This event triggered a major shift in the country's foreign policy outlook. As elections approach, new leaders are emerging who advocate for a more balanced approach that avoids exclusive reliance on Washington. This is not rebellion but pragmatism, as South Korea recognizes the risks of placing all its strategic eggs in the U.S. basket. Trade served as another wake-up call. The United States imposed harsh tariffs on South Korean steel, a move that shook Seoul's confidence in its longtime ally. In response, South Korea urgently diversified its economic relationships, forging new agreements across Asia and Europe. The message was clear. If the U.S. acts as a competitor, South Korea will seek other markets to trust. This was a lesson learned, not a threat. Number 3. Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan's pivot in 2025 initially did not capture global headlines, but its impact is rapidly unfolding. Long perceived as a quiet partner, the nation is now confidently entering new alliances, particularly through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. By deepening ties with China and Russia, Kazakhstan is signaling that its future lies with Eurasia, not the West. This represents a complete reorientation of its identity and influence. Driving this transformation is Kazakhstan's focus on regional stability. Surrounded by powerful neighbors, the country has learned to navigate geopolitics carefully. However, in recent years, Western pressure and sanctions have become more of a liability than a protective shield. Kazakhstan is choosing to prioritize domestic peace by aligning with powers that offer support without interference. For them, calm borders are more valuable than distant promises. Number 2. Philippines. In 2025, the Philippines began taking bold steps to rethink its long-standing relationship with the United States. Years of military agreements and joint exercises once closely linked the two nations, but shifting global dynamics are changing this. Manila is now re-evaluating its defense strategies, no longer relying solely on American protection. This is not a sudden break but a quiet move towards greater autonomy and regional balance. Simultaneously, economic uncertainty is compelling the Philippines to rapidly diversify. With unpredictable U.S. trade routes and rising protectionist policies, the country is strengthening its ties with Asian neighbors. From tech partnerships with South Korea to agricultural deals with China, the Philippines is cultivating relationships across the region. The goal is clear: stability that does not depend on any single superpower. Number 1. China. China's dominance in Asia reached new heights in 2025, sending an unmistakable message to the United States: we don't need you. Through aggressive diplomacy and substantial investments, China has become the core around which much of the continent revolves. From infrastructure to military alliances, Beijing is offering leadership where Washington once stood, and an increasing number of nations are accepting this offer without hesitation. Economically, China is vigorously pursuing regional integration on its own terms. Through the Belt and Road Initiative and expanded trade agreements, it is drawing its neighbors into a shared economic vision that excludes Western influence. These are not merely deals, they are a blueprint for a new Asia. As the US contends with internal divisions and global fatigue, China is stepping up with focus, resources, and ambition. Perhaps most strategically, China is forming deep partnerships across borders, not only with existing allies but also with former US friends. From state visits to coordinated supply chains, it is constructing a new network of loyalty across the continent, this time without the US at its center. In 2025, China is no longer merely rising, it has risen, and many in Asia are ready to follow its lead into a future where America watches from the sidelines. Considering these significant shifts in Asian geopolitics, do you believe this marks the definitive beginning of a new global order led by the East, or is it merely a preliminary warning shot? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let me know where in the world you're watching this from.